Hello everybody and welcome back to Beetles Reviews. Today we're going to be looking at the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beast, Optimus Prime. And before I actually get into the review here, let me just say how glad I am that Hasbro seems to be changing the way they actually wrap these up, because the confetti is so stupid and so useless. And the fact that it didn't, the figures don't have any plastic in front of them. I know it's better for the environment, but at the same time, you go into stores and you're constantly seeing them broken and messed up. Anyway, let's get on to the review. And starting off, we've got the truck mode, and this truck mode isn't really all that great if you count out the fact that he has some really good paint applications on him. Otherwise, I mean, the back is very messed up. They had a reason for it, and that reason was they ran out of budget after the robot mode, but it's still not that great. Even going to the front, in my opinion, it's not that great. I'm not a fan of the cow catcher, but overall the paint applications on it are pretty good. It's kind of got a very bad gray top to it, and there's the unpainted smokestacks, obviously. I mean, overall it's just a pretty boring truck mode, but luckily this mode is compromised, not the robot mode. And now moving on to the weapon storage. In this mode, you can only store one of the weapons on there, and that is his blaster, which plugs into the side of the truck to make it look even worse. I mean, at least they gave that some form of storage, which is unfortunately more than you can say about the sword, which has no true way of storing it. You can kind of shove it in his back and make it work, I guess, but it's not great and it's not ideal. But now we got truck mode comparisons, and starting off with Sunstreaker, then RC, and we got Wheeljack, we got Bumblebee, my last review, the Studio Series 86 Prime, and the mainline version of the figure. And comparing the two, the truck mode on the mainline version, I genuinely prefer. It's a much simpler figure, granted, and it's a lot cheaper, but it's got more truck to it, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It has a trailer hitch, whereas the Studio Series version doesn't even have that going for it. And overall, I just think it's a better representation of that truck mode that we saw in the movie. Now it's time for the transformation, and I completely forgot this step when I first recorded it, so here it is. And here is Prime in his robot mode, and seeing how bad the vehicle mode was, you would assume that this would be pretty good, and it is. And while the backpack is not perfect, it is very good, and one of the best backpacks you'll see on a mainline figure. It's very flat, and the engineering on this guy is actually pretty good in my opinion, and this is just heaps and bounds better than the original Studio Series release for Bumblebee, and it's not even close. I don't have the original figure to compare it with, but when it comes down to it, his head looks so much better, and overall he's just painted better, his legs stick together, and it's a very solid figure. There is, however, one point of concern for me though, and that's his ab crunch, and then another one too actually is his arm flap just doesn't tab in on the right side, which can get a little bit annoying, but it's not too bad if he's just standing in his pose. And when it comes to his accessories in his robot mode, they actually integrate really well. Here I'm putting on the arm cannon, and it just plugs right in. You fold his hand in, and it works really well. Granted, it could have been painted, but they did run out of budget later on in the figure, and at least the sword is got amazing paint on it, an amazing silver, and you can just plug it in on his arm if you want to. I'm pretty sure it can be handheld too, but I haven't really tested it out. And it obviously looks better on the right arm, but overall the weapons are pretty good. And then you can obviously store them on the backpack, as you could with pretty much any other figure, just kind of tabbing them in. It's not perfect, but it works. And then another accessory that's not his, but it works more for him than the character it came out with, is the axe that came with Optimus Primal. It works with Prime, obviously, because it's the axe he used. I'm pretty sure they put it in just because they didn't have the budget for this figure. You can plug it in where the sword goes, and the sword you can also plug in on the side of his arm if you want to give him that sort of look. And as for his posability, you got a ball joint at the head. He can look up a decent amount and down not that far. His arms move out. You can technically have a butterfly joint if you want him to, but it's not ideal because the backpack doesn't like to plug in if it's like that, if you want to get a pose out of it, so it's kind of worthless. Then his bicep has a swivel, bend at the elbow, and double bend actually, a wrist swivel, and his wrist can also move up and down slightly if you don't move the arm thing out of the way. He's got a technical ab crunch, a waist swivel. His legs can go out kind of awkwardly, not all that far. He's got no backwards movement at the legs, but his legs can kick forward really far due to a weird hinge joint type thing on there. I've never seen it used before, but it is there. Then you have a awkward thigh swivel as well. An over 90-degree bend at the knee, slightly over. An ankle pivot. And due to the fact that it has a ball joint at the foot, you technically have some forward and backward, and you have a swivel. So overall, the posability on this guy is pretty good, and he is a just overall pretty good figure. He's also pretty big in comparison to his peers. Here we have Sunstreaker, we have RC, we have Not So Wheeljack, we have Bumblebee, Studio Series 86 Prime, Optimus Primal. So the last comparison, because some dumbass decided to forget to compare the mainline figure with this one, is Concept Art Megatron, and I took a few pictures with them. You're seeing them on screen right now, and these guys look great. But overall, this guy is a lot better than the mainline, but the mainline is a fun figure on its own. And if you guys are considering getting this figure, I recommend it 100%. And this is the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, please subscribe. I have more coming out like this at some point soon. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.